No.
I'm Harvey Hoyer. I'm 82 years old, born in 1938. Been in the concrete business in one phase or the other all my life. First time I was on a concrete job, I was 6 weeks old. My grandfather was building the Schwinn bicycle factory in Chicago, and my mother and grandmother, they decided to go shopping. Well, they wanted to do something with me, not take me shopping, so they brought me to the job site. My grandfather put a wheelbarrow down on its handle, put me in there in a blanket, facing the mixer. And he said that I watched that until they came back. Never gave them a peep. I was so interested in what they were doing, mixing the concrete there. And that was my first introduction into the concrete pumping, concrete industry. And I followed in my grandfather's footsteps. I worked with him and my uncle. He was also in the concrete business, and we went on from there.
A little louder.
When I got to be a teenager, my dad says, well, you can't just rely on the concrete business. You have to have something else, which is European theory. You know, you have to have something to back up with, just in case whatever you're doing collapses, sort of thing. So I went to apprenticeship school as a steam fitter, and I did that. I went through 5 years of that, got my card, all that good stuff. And then I went back to the concrete. Spent 3 years of apprenticeship as a cement finisher. Went to school for that. And got out of that and went to work for my dad, and because he had inherited the concrete business from my grandfather.
Uh-huh.
And, I did that. I was a cement finisher for about 15 years, something like that. And then we had a job. We had a 3-story concrete building that we were building, and we had no way of getting the concrete up there because where it was traffic and everything else, and the city wouldn't give us permits to use a crane or an elevator, which at that time, and we were both befuddled how we were going to get the concrete up to the second, third, and fourth floors of the roof, you know. So I went to lunch with a guy, and he says, I got something new, and it's just crazy. He says, some idiot's trying to pump concrete through a pipe. And I says, what? He says, yeah. So one thing led to another, and I bought a concrete pump that day in 1963, this spring of 1963.
Who's that idiot?
That idiot was out in California.
Benson Brothers?
Challenge Cook brothers. I can't think of the inventor's name. Broadfoot. Yeah, Broadfoot was he invented that machine.
Oh, okay.
I guess it was in Seattle or someplace up north. Broadfoot was his name. And so I bought one because I needed it right away. And they said, well, we can have it here by late summer. I said, okay, fine. So my pump, 3-inch squeezecrete, came in on the same truck that Bob Weatherton's pump came in. I got mine, and he got his a day or two later. And that's how Bob Weatherton and I met, was that because we were both trying to figure out how in the hell to run these things. They just didn't work, and you'd pump about 20, 30 yards, then the pump tube would break. Then you have to clean everything out, wash it out, put a new pump tube in, and do another 10, 15, 20 yards. And we stack them up like cordwood, you know, these pumps, tubes, you know. And one thing led to another. And by the end of the second year, 64, 65, I had 5 concrete pumps. And that's when Bob also went to work for Challenge as in their sales department. And him and I, we kept in good touch until the day he passed away. We're always good friends. And one thing led to another, and I wanted to expand. So at one time I had several offices. I had one in Houston, one in Des Moines, Columbus, South Carolina, Indianapolis, and then it got to be just too much. I was going nuts. I had 5 kids at home and a wife and family, and it got to be a little bit too much. So I started selling them off, and I've been in the concrete pumping business now this is the 57th year. Yeah. So, and I guess they'll carry me out in a box one day. Because I have no interest in doing anything else. It's always been good. Exciting, very exciting. Especially when you have boom parties. Those are exciting. No beer, no nothing, just boom party, yeah, right. That's a misnomer. Boom party is not a party, it's a mess. But they do happen. So.
What's some of your proudest pours, some of your biggest accomplishments in the pumping industry that you can recall?
Well, we were the first one to have a placing boom in Chicago. It was on I believe it was an 18-story building. And I rented the placing boom from Joey Delrosano. I didn't own one, but I bought one after that. I rented it from him. And his brother, Vincenzo, he came and helped us set it up. And it was a great experience. And we pumped the concrete all the way up there with a Reinert 7000 box valve.
I think I have a picture of it right here from your office. Maybe.
It was a good machine, worked good. Yep, that's it. Reinert 7000. Yep, that's it.
I was looking through some of your old literature.
P7000, yeah. Good
Yeah.
machine. We pumped when they were doing some in the refineries. They had these big ponds that they pumped this sludge into, which is the final, I guess, end of the oil processing. They don't know what to do with it. Very toxic, very bad stuff. It's black, it's like tar, but they don't know what to do with it. So they pump it into these big ponds. And they had to move one of these ponds. And they had no way of knowing how to get the stuff from point A to point B. And I said, well, why didn't you pump it? Because it's sludge, it's oil sludge, it should pump. Okay, so we did it. We set up 5-inch line, and it was about 1,800 feet. And we put the Reinert on it. And at that time, I converted it over to a swing tube. And we pumped there for weeks. But I'll tell you what, it was horrible. The vapor and you could see it in the air. It was, waving. It's very toxic stuff. And it rusted the living snot out of everything. You had to rinse it off right away at the end of the day, otherwise it would rust up like crazy. It was very toxic, very bad stuff. We pumped that for, I don't know how many 1,000 yards we pumped it. We pumped there for a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, something like that. Every day. It did a good job. It did a good job. We pumped a lot of concrete with it afterwards too. But we pumped concrete all over the place there. For a while, before there was a lot of concrete pumps going back, I pumped the concrete on the original Busch Stadium, baseball stadium. I pumped that. That was in, I think, 65. I pumped the concrete on the John Hancock Center, which was in 1965. And we did a lot of work in Cincinnati. I did a lot of work in Cincinnati. Macon, Georgia. We're out in Idaho. But see, at that time, there wasn't too many concrete pumps in the United States. Everything was still kind of knew, and nobody knew what the heck was pumping concrete was. But yeah, we kept doing it, and as it's become more popular, and now it's more or less a gimme on a lot of jobs. Architects and engineers are designing buildings with the idea that you can pump the concrete. You're not required to build a building so that you can get access to it. Build it anywhere, do anything, just run a pipe and pump the concrete. So it's good industry, good industry.
Do you know, I sent a picture of you on Facebook of my account. But Scott Straley,
Yeah.
he says that you got him started pumping concrete in 1978. Who all's worked for you over the years?
Oh, God.
You toss some names out there, name drop?
Oh, God, I couldn't even begin to tell you how many people, have come and gone through our organization, started their own companies. There's been a lot. There's a lot of people around, and I off the top of my head, I can't think names, but people I know just about all the old timers, In fact, I just got a text from Parent just yesterday, which I sent to you, that he's gonna be at the World of Concrete.
Right.
So, yeah, there's, it seems like all us originators, so to speak, of the industry, the group is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. They're all going to the happy pumping grounds.
Were you one of the founding fathers of the ACPA? Did you meet at the Queen Mary?
Yes, I was there. I wasn't one of the fondling members. I was there. It started with a smaller organization in California, and that's what started it. But yeah, I was there at the original meeting at the Queen Mary. In fact, just a few years ago, we had the 40th anniversary of that, and we were there. There was quite a few people there, and there was quite a few people that were not there because they had already passed away. So, yeah. That was a great time. At that time, I was heavily into econ placers. We had a display there, econ placer, and people always say, "What is an econ placer?" Well, econ placer was very early on, different kind of valving system, etc. Yeah.
What about innovations in the industry? As you look back over the 50 years or so, what do you see as some of the bigger innovations in our industry?
Wow. I think the hydraulic systems on the various machines have just been incredible when it comes to advances. They've really done a great job, the engineers. The valving systems, type of metals they use in the wear parts, the booms. The booms have been, from what they started with and what they have today, great. All the safety devices they've come up with, unbelievable. And there's still a lot more coming. They've done a great job. I got involved with Putzmeister back in 75 or 76. And that's when I met Les Ainsworth, because he bought a PMP 160, which I had also, a PMP 160 Putzmeister at Elephant Trunk. And there was issues with them, and nobody seemed to know anything about them. Yeah. Les Ainsworth and I, we stumbled across each other, and we were talking back and forth how to keep them running and all that. Great machine, and that's when I was introduced to Putzmeister, which I also had econ placers. I think I had 4 or 5 of them, 2 booms, and 3 booms. 3 booms. I had 3 booms at that time. Yeah. The innovations have been just incredible, and there's still more coming with electronics, radio remote control, which is a really great thing. Unfortunately, several people were still using hardwire this years ago. They get into the wires. They
Power lines, yeah.
yeah, they got electrocuted. And but the radio remote control is a safety device. It's also a good thing. There's a lot of innovations in the concrete pumping industry. Yeah.
When was your first computer?
My first computer was somewhere around 1972, 73, something like that. It was a Durango. And some of my customers, when I sent out invoices, were printed on the computer. They didn't know what kind of a printer I was using, you know. And I was telling them about computers, and some of them didn't even know what I was talking about. They had no idea what a computer was. But we quickly educated them. And one of my customers went out and bought one too. The Durango, from what I was told, was developed by one of the universities in Southern California. I don't know if it was UCLA or one of them, but one of the universities was commissioned by Xerox to build a computer in the early 70s, late 60s, something like that, whatever it was. And they developed this Durango over a period of years. And then Xerox said they didn't want it because there was probably no future in it for this type of machine, you know, which we were absolutely wrong. And we bought one, and I tell you what, it was a great thing. The funny part about it is that we had 5 invoices. We had to get them in by noon, because if we didn't get them in by noon to put them onto the hard drives, I mean, there was no hard drive. The discs would take 4 hours to get these 5 invoices on there. It was a little bit slow, you know. So we'd get them in. Then in the morning, she'd start another 5, and they'd just keep going like that, you know. And we did a job downtown, which I said before, and when we finished the job, I printed out all of our invoices, our profit, our labor costs, union cost, the whole 9 yards, everything that pertained to that job. And it's on tractor paper, you know, with the holes in it, that green and white and green and white and green and white, that type of paper. I printed it all out. I went to my customer, and we had a very good relationship, and I gave it to him. I says, here, this is what it cost you to do this job by the yard. And he looked at this and he says, what in the world? How did you do this? And I says, on my computer. He says, what is that? He had no idea. And there's a big contractor. Well, they went out and got one too, after I told them what it was. And they developed a cost per cubic yard on how to, when they were building these buildings, which helped them on future projects. And it was quite interesting, you know. Looking back at it now, I didn't realize, you know, that I was that far ahead of everybody else. But I was technology at that time was just in an infancy with all the electronics that we have today that we take for granted.
Uh-huh.
And I was having a ball. I was having an absolute ball with all this stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a Durango. I still have them. And I'm going to box one up and send it to you. You. You can put it in your museum.
That'd be great. I would love that. There's a lot of young concrete pump owners now, a lot of second and third generation guys, a lot of new people to the industry. Do you have any advice for them? Any words of wisdom for a 25-year-old guy that's got his first boom or first 3 booms?
It seems like when they start a business and they don't have a lot of business knowledge, they always feel like, oh, well, that concrete pumper over there, he's been in business now for 20 years and I can do it for half the price. And I'll make money. And it's wrong. They fall on their face, and I think there's just as many go out in bankruptcy as there is that comes in, because they think that all they're looking for is payments and a paycheck. And you can't do that, because when these concrete pumps need maintenance, it's expensive. There's nothing cheap about a concrete pump. They're a great piece of machinery. They're wonderful, but you have to maintain them, and you have to get the parts, and the parts are expensive. So I would say, know your costs. Absolutely, know your costs. Know what you're going to return on your investment, which they never do. They never do. What is going to be returned? You're putting in $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on a machine. If you took that same $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 and put it in the stock market, you get a return of some kind. This is the same way in concrete pumping. You have to get a return on your machinery, on your investment, and your maintenance costs. And that's something that a lot of them don't do. And it takes, rule of thumb, for a new guy about 5 to 7 years to figure that out. And if they've made it that far, sometimes they can survive and sometimes they go bankrupt. There's been so many in this market here, in the Chicago market. I used to keep a notch on my gun, so to speak, you know, how many. I quit at 17. I stopped.
Like come and went, come and
Yeah,
gone?
come and gone, bankrupt, you know, out of business. It was sad, because I love the industry. I'll do a lot for the industry. Even my competitors, you know, if something happens, even though we're competitors, I don't think about my competitor, myself, I think about the industry. We have to survive and we have to protect the industry, because this is how we all make our living.
Right.
And if you protect the industry, you're in good shape.
Right.
If you don't, it falls apart and then everybody's in trouble. And these price wars, the only one that benefits in a price war is the contractor. None of the pumpers do. They all lose their shirts.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, yeah, that would be my advice. Know your cost and be conscious of what you do.
Right.
And don't bid cheap. Bid what you think is right and what your costs are, so you can make a profit.
Right. Yeah. All right, so I'll throw out some names and just tell me what pops into your brain, okay? If whatever pops out is bad, we'll delete it. I'll edit it out, okay?
Well,
I had to do that with this guy, Richard O'Brien.
oh God, I've known Richard for forever and ever, so to speak. And I've been to his place, and he's a very, very intelligent, hard-driving, serious businessman. Knows his apples and oranges. Does a good job. A lot of people find him difficult to deal with because he is so stout and strong at what he does and his convictions. And I appreciate him. I like Richard. Richard's got a lot of good ideas. Sometimes he has a way of not presenting them, you know, in a friendly way, but he's got good ideas, and I always support it. I always do. And Dwayne Perrin, been to his ranch, and at the time he was growing avocados out there in Escondido, and Les Ainsworth. I'm still in contact with him. I still talk to him quite a bit. Joey Delavasano, great guy, great guy. He is one of the people that when we get stumped, which is not too often, we call Joey. And between Joey and myself and my guy Scott, it gets figured out. Because if Joey doesn't know it, it doesn't exist. Alex Wagner, I've known him forever and ever. And, very successful, very good guy. Does a lot for the industry, which I appreciate. Dennis Andrews, very good, stout businessman. Does a lot for the industry, always has, him and his wife. I see a lot at the various gatherings and things like that. Oh my God. John Ferraris. We, in fact, last year, we took our motorhome down to Florida, no, 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago now, yeah. Took our motorhome down to Florida and stayed with him for a week at Palm, down there near Thonotosassa, Florida, Thonotosassa. It's north and east of Tampa, someplace. And we stayed with them in their park for a week.
How about Ken Williams Sr.?
I didn't know him. I met him many times, but I didn't know him well. Ken Williams, no, I didn't know him well.
About Ken Williams Jr.?
No, same thing. I know of them, but I never had much to do with them.
How about Pat Inglis?
Oh, Pat and I go back to when he was still in Pennsylvania, long time, you know, and he's done well. He's done well. He's also a very smart businessman. He's done a lot for the industry, still is. He's expanding, which is good for him. I like Pat. Pat and his wife, good people. Yeah, we've done a lot together. Information, parts, pieces, emergencies. There's always emergencies in the concrete pumping business, always, you know. And it always happens at 6 o'clock at night or something like that, and you got a 300-yard pour in the morning. And, yeah, he's always worked out.
About Murley, the Murley guys?
Murley, I was one of the first meetings that we had with the ACPA. Murley was supposed to be there because we're having a board meeting. There was 2 of us there that started. And then the third guy showed up, and Murley was supposed to be there, and he was stuck with something or other, and he couldn't make the meeting. It was an ACPA meeting, you know. And I met him in Southern California when I was down in Gardena at the Putzmeister place down there. I met him, and we went out to lunch, you know, at his favorite German place, which was right down the street, I guess it was, you know. It's kind of a German restaurant type thing. We had lunch there. We had a lot of fun. All that banging. That's my carpenters are working remodeling. That's what all the banging is.
What about Jack Brundage?
Oh, Jack Brundage. Yeah. This is not good.
Yeah, we could wait a second. How about if
Jack Brundage.
yeah, thank you. What about Jack Brundage?
Jack Brundage. I met Jack Brundage many years ago and liked him. He kind of an interesting, humorous type person, and him and I struck it off fairly well. And he invited me out to his home on the left coast, and I went out there and spent some time with him, and he was telling me about his boats, and we were talking about boats because I had a boat too. But he showed me his boat. His boat was a lot bigger than my boat, and he was building a boat and going to a boat company, and we went over there and visited there and was showing me how they were building it. It was a pretty good sized boat, very nice. I met Dale Bone also. In fact, when Dale Bone got married, I was invited to the wedding. Went up a little island in the San Juan Islands up there, and we had to fly in with one of these planes, seaplanes. Had a great time. Went out on a boat in the I guess what is it, the San Juan area there, and we had like on Jack's boat, we had like, I guess maybe 15 people, maybe something like that. And Jack and I were up on the upper bridge, and Jack says, "You know how to pilot a boat?" I says, "Yeah." I says, "I haven't piloted a boat this big. Mine's only 40 feet, So he says, "Oh, well, that's all right. You'll take it. I got to go to the bathroom." He went downstairs and he got a cocktail, and all of a sudden I could feel the boat start lifting up on the backside. I turned around and looked, and here's this freighter coming. It's huge. I mean, this thing was big, and it's barreling down on us. Whoa! So I gave it a little bit of fuel and tried to stay ahead of it. Got over to the side, and this thing was, this is a big freighter. It just passed me by like I was going backwards. It was really going back. And then after he passed by, Jack came back up on the bridge, and he says, "Now you see all those waves out there?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "That's a volcano, an undersea volcano. When the water comes up, it goes up over the top of the ridge there and makes those." I said, "Oh, okay." It just, we should. I said, "We shouldn't hit anything there." "No," he said, they're pretty far down." So we got in there. We sailed around in the harbor there. Then we got back to land and went to have a few more adult beverages and had some nice times. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jack and Dale, good people, yeah. I never did much business with them, but as far as personalities, Jack has always been, pleasant to me, and Dale's always been good.
What about Tom Anderson?
Tom Anderson, the wild man. Great guy. Tried for many, many, many years to sell me a swing. And I had 2 or 3 swings, but I took them in on trade and used them for a while and sold them. But at the ACPA meetings, he was always, when they play that song, the Wild Thing, and then he'd start dancing. And one time we were out west someplace, and they played that. He took his shirt off, and he was dancing. He got up in the rafters and was hanging there and dancing all over the place, and just, what a great guy, Yeah. I was sorry to see him, leave his position at Schwing and go someplace else. It was good people. For the industry, I'm always talking about the industry, it was good for the industry. It did a lot for us.
Yeah.
When I was on the board of directors for 32 years. Anytime we needed anything, we could call Tom, and he'd be Johnny on the spot to help out, in many ways, without any question.
The ACPA board?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to be going to the World of Concrete this year?
Absolutely. I haven't missed one. Been to every one since the first one.
Wow.
Haven't missed one.
Remember what year the first year was?
70. I don't remember exactly what year. 75, 76, something like that. I don't remember exactly the year. I have to look it up. I got it in my books someplace, but I don't remember what year it was.
You remember when you and I first met?
to forget.
Yeah. I'm cutting that out, damn it. So, I think it was at a World of Concrete.
Probably.
I think you came up to me and looked at my software, and you're very encouraging, and
Pump Magic 1.
yeah.
Great, great piece of software. We still use it today.
Yeah. Yeah, that was quite a while ago.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had it in my Chicago office, in my Houston office. We never installed it in the Columbia office because we only had 2 machines down there. We didn't do a whole lot down there. That was Tim Sweeney was my man down there in Columbia. Yeah. We worked together quite a bit.
Well, any final words for the video here?
Well, I just hope that the industry continues on the path it's on now to become more and more popular. I think that there's a lot more contractors today using concrete pumps, buying them. I think the industry is expanding. And for all the newcomers, again, know your costs, do a business properly, and try to think of the industry and not yourself completely. The industry, we need, it's our dinner plate, so to speak. We need to protect it.
Yeah.
And down with 18 and 20-story wood buildings,
Right.
fire trash.
Right.
So,
Well, thank you so much, Harvey.
thank you.
You've always been a blessing in our lives and to the industry, so thank you very much for everything you've done.
Well, I tried. My little contribution hopefully will be appreciated at some point in time. I know there's a lot of people in this industry that are working as hard as we did when we were first starting the industry. I hope it continues. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Harvey.
Okay.